Davis and Lamont Roach Jr. have been sharing some thrilling training videos that have captured the fans' attention. It's like watching the experts perfecting their craft. With the intensity palpable through the screen, both fighters are pushing their limits, but Roach has been gaining significant attention lately. Each video showcases his growing speed and sharpness, almost as if he's reaching a new level in his abilities every day.
I think he actually took this fight for the naysayers and all this and all the people talking shit about the fight. I think he actually took the fight because he know that I'm a dog, and he want to prove his skills against a dog. So I'm gonna show y'all what.
Initially, many didn't take Roach's chances against Tank seriously. Let's be honest, when you look at the stats, it's easy to understand why. Tank has an undefeated record, incredible knockout power, and a wealth of experience in big fights. On the other hand, Roach doesn't have many knockouts in his record, and some still recall his loss to Jamal Herring. But then, his training videos started surfacing, and suddenly, the narrative began to change.
Round.
What?
I say 9th round.
You said 9?
Yeah.
What's your response to that, Lamont?
Look, he got scared. Look.
In one of his clips, Roach looks like he's on a mission. His footwork is quick and smooth. And it's not just about speed, he's positioning himself perfectly, staying balanced, and keeping his angles sharp. In another, he's throwing combinations that are clean and precise, showing clear focus on timing and accuracy. Meanwhile, Davis remains as dangerous as ever. His training videos are all about power and focus, with each hit on the pads delivering a force that's almost intimidating. Tank knows the stakes and is making sure he's ready for whatever Roach brings. Watching him train is a reminder of why he's considered one of the best in the game.
I see my brother walking out victorious. There's no doubt, not because that's my brother, but because I seen him.
Then there's Oscar De La Hoya, who's been closely watching everything unfold. His comments have only added fuel to the fire. At first, it seemed like De La Hoya was just giving Roach a motivational push, but now it feels like he's genuinely starting to believe in him. He's been saying things like, "Don't count Roach out," and calling him sneaky good. In one interview, De La Hoya said, "Gervonta Davis is a beast, a tremendous fighter, but Roach, he's sneaky. He can catch you off guard, landing combinations at will without you even seeing them coming." That's a huge compliment, especially when you consider how dominant Tank has been in his career. It's almost like De La Hoya is planting the idea that maybe, just maybe, Roach could be the one to surprise everyone.
Terrific fighter. He might be a little over his head with Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is, to say the least, he's a beast. He really is. He's a tremendous fighter. He's a dedicated fighter when it comes to training and fighting.
But De La Hoya didn't stop there. He went on to lay out what Roach needs to do to win, almost like he was providing a blueprint. He told Roach to fight smart, not to be nervous or scared, and to have fun with it. He emphasized using angles, staying sneaky, and keeping Davis guessing. If Roach can do that, De La Hoya believes he has a real shot. But let's be honest, this is easier said than done. Tank is known for his ability to adapt and always find a way to win, no matter what. He has that killer instinct and can end a fight with a single punch. De La Hoya knows this too, which is probably why he keeps stressing that Roach needs to stay unpredictable. Punch while Tank is punching, he said. Mix up your power. Don't throw every punch with full force surprise. Him.
From DC, my whole family, like my entire family.
Don't bring them. Don't bring them.
For what?
Don't bring them. I'm telling you.
They gonna celebrate with me. Yeah,
don't bring them.
What's really interesting is how closely De La Hoya seems to be studying Tank. He even brought up the one time Tank got buzzed in a fight. When Ryan Garcia landed that big left hook, De La Hoya suggested that if Roach can land a similar shot, he might have a chance to knock Tank out. That's a bold statement, but it shows that De La Hoya isn't just hyping Roach for the sake of it. He's seriously analyzing how this fight could unfold. Of course, not everyone is buying into this narrative. Many still believe this fight is a mismatch, pointing to Roach's low knockout percentage and past struggles as proof he doesn't stand a chance. But then, you watch those training videos, and you start to wonder, what if What if Roach is leveling up in a way that no one expected?
Tank Davis, what do you need to do to, together with you and your team and obviously your son, to score that victory?
We got a game plan. We're going to execute it, and we're going to get the
Move
results.
that head, bob and weave, bob and weave.
It's not just the fans who are paying attention. Tank and his team are definitely watching these videos too. They're not the type to underestimate any opponent, especially one as hungry as Roach. Tank knows that every fighter he faces is coming to take everything he's worked for, and he's not about to let that happen. If anything, these videos are probably motivating him to push even harder in his own training. That's what makes this fight so intriguing. On one side, you've got Tank, the proven champion, the knockout artist, the guy who's been at the top for years. On the other, you've got Roach, the underdog, the one who's been quietly putting in the work and showing signs of something special. It's a classic story, and it's the kind of matchup that keeps fans glued to their screens.
Announcement of the Gervonta Davis-Roach fight.
I think that, it's had a lot of criticism, but it's not a bad fight. Lamont Roach is a world champion. He's smaller than Gervonta Davis. The problem is not many people are aware of who he is or his ability, but he can fight. I don't think it's a huge fight.
The upcoming fight between these two is definitely heating up, and Sean Porter's recent comments are making it clear this could be a much closer fight than many expect. When Porter talks about Roach being familiar with Tank's rhythm, speed, and style, it really makes you stop and think. That kind of experience isn't something you can replicate in training. Roach has been in the same camps as Davis, sparred with him, and knows him on a level that most fighters never get to. It's like playing chess with someone whose moves you've studied for years. You know what to expect, and that can completely change the game. Davis is a powerhouse, no doubt about it. His record of 30 wins with 28 knockouts speaks for itself. But what Porter is hinting at is that Roach isn't walking into this fight blind. He's already felt Davis's power firsthand and knows the speed and precision Tank brings into the ring. That familiarity could be Roach's secret weapon. Most fighters who face Tank for the first time get caught off guard by his explosive power and quickness. Roach, on the other hand, has been there, done that. He knows what it feels like to get hit by Tank, and if he can weather those punches, the fight could take a very different turn. It's worth noting that Roach has been on an impressive run since his loss to Jamal Herring in 2019. He's stacked up 6 consecutive wins and even became a world champion last year, beating Hector Luis Garcia to claim the WBA junior lightweight title. That wasn't an easy feat, and defending it against a tough southpaw like Ferguson McCroy showed that Roach has grit and adaptability. These aren't the achievements of someone just going through the motions. Roach has been sharpening his skills and building momentum, making him a real threat to Davis. On the other hand, Davis is coming off a series of knockout victories, including a brutal win over Frank Martin. Tank's power is what makes him such a dangerous opponent, but as Porter pointed out, it's a whole different ball game when your opponent already knows what that power feels like. For most fighters, facing Tank's punches for the first time is a shock to the system. They're not prepared for the sheer force he brings. Roach, however, has already felt Tank's power. He's familiar with the intensity, and that could give him the edge he needs to stay in the fight longer than most.
And the thing that I really appreciate about Tank is he's a dog. That kind of that what he just said. You can put the earmuffs up and go at it. Mm-hmm. He kind of will assess you as well, and whatever he needs to do, he'll do it. You know?
What's also interesting is how Roach has been improving with each fight. He's not the same fighter who lost to Jamal Herring. His agility, timing, and ability to adapt have all gotten better, and you can see it in his recent performances. In his fight against Hector Luis Garcia, Roach demonstrated he can handle pressure and still come out on top. Against Fergal McCroy, he proved he has the power to stop an opponent when the opportunity rises. These are qualities that will be crucial when facing someone like Tank Davis, who brings a level of danger that requires constant adaptation and the ability to capitalize on moments.
Hey, can't even see who it is. Hey, who is the dude? Who is the dude?
And that right there is why Gervonta Davis fights don't go the distance.
Porter also discussed the mental side of the fight, pointing out that Roach needs to stay calm and not let the moment overwhelm him. That's easier said than done when facing someone like Tank, who thrives on intimidating his opponents. However, Roach isn't inexperienced. He's been in the sport for a decade and has faced his share of tough challenges. If he can keep his cool and stick to his plan, he might be able to frustrate Tank and create opportunities for himself. Another thing to keep in mind is how Roach has been preparing for this fight. His training videos show a fighter who is focused and determined, working on his speed, footwork, and combinations, all crucial skills for facing a fighter like Tank. Roach is clearly putting in the effort, and that could be a key factor in the fight.
Again, is not fighting one of the elite guys that you want to see him fight against. He's fighting another kind of B-level fighter who is really, really good, but you want to see Tank against the best of the best.
Lamont Roach, and this is nothing against him, I think this is actually a good fight. I think he's very skilled. It's kind of giving the Canelo blueprint right now, where Canelo is like picking fighters, Edgar Berlanga.
Roach knows he's the underdog, but he's embracing that role, putting in the work, and it shows in his sharper movements, crisper punches, and growing confidence. Tank, meanwhile, has also been preparing hard, aware that Roach is not to be taken lightly. The fight's delay from December to March has given both more time to prepare, which could benefit Roach. He's had more time to study Tank's recent bouts and fine-tune his strategy, while also staying in peak condition and building momentum. What makes this fight so intriguing is the contrast in styles: Tank's explosive power and ability to end fights with one punch versus Roach's technique, ring IQ, and ability to outmaneuver his opponents. It's a classic matchup of power versus strategy. If Roach can avoid Tank's big shots and make him miss, he might be able to capitalize on the openings and score points. But that's a big if, considering Tank's ability to close the distance and land devastating punches. However, not everyone thinks Tank will have a hard time with Roach. Teofimo Lopez recently advised Tank to lower his ego and give his fans the fights they want to see. While Lopez isn't directly involved in this fight, his comments raise an important point. As Tank's confidence turned into overconfidence, it's easy to see how this could affect the Roach fight. If Tank is looking past Roach or underestimating him, he could find himself in a tough spot. Roach, while not the flashiest name in boxing, has proven time and again that he's skilled, determined, and capable of adapting in the ring.
Here's my take on the fight. Everything is true about this situation. One, Gervonta Tank Davis was being ducked leading up to this. Shakur Stevenson.
Davis has an impressive undefeated record, but his focus on maintaining his image as the biggest name in boxing could distract him from the reality that every opponent brings a unique challenge. Teofimo Lopez's critique about Tank's ego might actually be spot on here. What if Tank isn't taking Roach seriously because he sees him as just another opponent who doesn't measure up to his level? That could be a dangerous mindset, especially against someone like Roach, who thrives on being underestimated. Roach's preparation for this fight seems centered on staying sharp and ready for whatever Tank brings. Unlike the other names on Tank's supposed must-fight list, Roach doesn't need the spotlight to prove himself.
Going to 140 for Teofimo?
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. Yeah. I'm gonna slap the shit out of him when I see him.
Why is that, Tank?
I'm gonna really slap the shit out of him when I see him.
Dante's proclamation.
Roach's focus is entirely on the task at hand, and that might be exactly why he's such a dangerous opponent. When someone has nothing to lose and everything to gain, they become even more unpredictable. Teofimo Lopez might question Tank's ego, but Roach's humility could be the very thing that levels the playing field. Lopez also brought up an important point when he said fighters need to leave their pride behind and treat boxing as a business. That's great advice for Tank, but it's also a reminder of what Roach is doing right. Roach isn't trying to play the star. He's not caught up in social media antics or flashy statements. He's here to fight, and if Tank underestimates that mindset, he could find himself up against a fighter who has no distractions, no ego, and no hesitation in exploiting any opening he finds.
I lost to the guy. Brian just kept literally lunging in and throwing the hooks. I mean, that was an easy read for Tank. I think that with myself and Tank.
Another layer to this is the psychological side of the sport. Tank thrives on being the guy everyone's talking about, but that also means he's under a microscope every move he makes. Every word he says is analyzed and critiqued. That can create pressure, even for someone as talented as Tank. Roach, on the other hand, flies under the radar. He doesn't have to deal with the same level of scrutiny, and that kind of freedom can be a game changer in a high-stakes fight like this. Roach can focus entirely on his strategy without worrying about his reputation or how his performance will be perceived by the world.
Oh man,
that's the right picture.
Tail versus Tank. Great fight, Sean. Great fight. What are we fighting at? Tell me the numbers. Tell me what we fighting. 135, 140, because that makes a difference.
Listen,
you got to go to the king. That's the king behind me.
Teofimo's point about big fights and pride also ties into how Tank approaches his opponents. When Tank steps into the ring, he likes to be the aggressor, the one who controls the narrative. But what if Roach disrupts that? What if Roach uses his underdog status to throw Tank off his game? Teofimo's comment about knowing how to handle business could be a subtle nod to the fact that sometimes it's the quieter, more disciplined fighter who comes out on top. The idea of Tank overlooking Roach becomes even more plausible when you consider his recent focus on bigger names. Tank has been vocal about wanting fights with guys like Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, but those fights haven't materialized. This could leave Tank distracted or underprepared, giving Roach the perfect opportunity to capitalize on any openings.
Really good with him, even though, because Tank at that time, should I work with my son? And he wasn't even working in that sparring session. My son was about 30 pounds smaller than him.
It's also worth noting that Tank's recent string of knockouts might have given him a false sense of security. Yes, he's incredibly powerful, but power alone doesn't win fights. Roach has shown that he can adapt and find ways to neutralize his opponent's strengths. If Tank goes into this fight thinking his power will automatically secure him the win, he might be in for a rude awakening. Teofimo's comment about pride could serve as a warning, not just for Tank, but for any fighter who thinks they're invincible. Underestimating an opponent like Roach, who's hungry and well prepared, could lead to costly mistakes.
Would you consider you and Javante friends?
Friends? Probably.
Is it gonna be hard to go in the ring and fight your friend?
Not at all.
Are you all gonna be friends after?
Yeah, why not?
Either way it goes.
Both making money.
But you guys are making each other bleed.
Hopefully I just make him bleed.
Oh, true. Okay.
Teofimo's criticism of Tank's career choices might also reflect something deeper about how Tank approaches fights. If Tank sees every fight as just a stepping stone to something bigger, he might overlook the immediate challenge in front of him. That's where Roach could take advantage. By focusing entirely on this fight and treating it as his moment to shine, Roach could catch Tank off guard. For Roach, it's not about ego. It's about seizing the opportunity. While Teofimo's comments might seem unrelated to the Roach fight at first, they actually highlight some key dynamics that could impact the outcome. Tank's confidence, though justified, could turn into overconfidence, and his focus on bigger fights could leave him unprepared for the unique challenge Roach presents. Roach's ability to stay grounded and focused could make all the difference. Whether or not Tank takes Teofimo's advice to heart, it's clear that this fight is shaping up to be far more intriguing than many expect.
When the people who I fight, when they start talking, that's when y'all get dumb. I'ma beat his ass.
He can't do shit with.
For
I don't
real.
give a fuck.
So y'all better be quiet.
I don't give a fuck if y'all was quiet, if y'all was loud.
He got the whole hood over there. Like,
Javante Davis finds himself in yet another whirlwind of online heat, a scenario that's become almost routine for athletes in the social media age. The latest episode involves a dramatic and almost comical flip-flop from one of his fans, who went from idolizing Davis as a boxing legend to claiming he could take him down in the ring, all within a matter of hours. Never one to shy away from calling things out, Davis shared a screenshot of the exchange on his Instagram, sparking yet another heated debate about fan behavior and the pressures of being a public figure.
To fight Isaac Cruz, they said no. Sabrina Matias complained about his hand, but now he's fighting in June. I'm fighting in June. We could have made the fight happen. They didn't want it. And then after that, Devin Haney had that situation with Ryan Garcia. There's nobody else, really. And then everybody keeps bringing up Tank. With Javante, they got him on that. He ain't gonna fight me. Niggas too pussy. So I'd just rather go after the guy that's too much of an ego, and that's Terrence Crawford. I promise y'all, even after this,